Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a midnight drive down Pechkasem Road to uncover the truth behind one of Thailand's most towering and, honestly, kind of terrifying urban legends. We're going to see how a massive roadside monument morphed from a feared man-eating monster into a literal beacon of prosperity. So buckle up because this is a pretty wild ride through Thai folklore and history.
Picture this. You're driving down a dark, winding highway in Prachuap Khiri Khan, heading south. Your headlights are just barely cutting through the pitch blackness of the night, when suddenly, out of nowhere, you see a massive, pale bird stepping directly into your path. Now, this isn't some cheesy scene from a horror movie. For decades, this was a very real, very genuine fear for travelers passing the Wat Hoi Luk temple. But how much of it is actually true?
Section 1. The Giant Swan's Curse. Urban Legends of the Night.
Okay, so to really understand the fear here, we have to look at the stories passed around by locals and long-haul drivers. People whispered these absolutely terrifying rumors about this giant white swan statue coming alive to hunt in the dead of night. They claimed it would literally cross the highway and then return to its pedestal by morning with fresh blood smeared right across its beak. I mean, no way, right? There are even these super dark tales of a massive bell hanging from the swan's mouth that supposedly fell and crushed a monk to death. And on top of all that, people said the beast was the true cause of the many mysterious car accidents on that stretch of road. The terror surrounding this statue got so intense that eventually, massive iron chains were seen wrapped tightly around the swan's legs. To the passing drivers, well, the message was crystal clear. These chains were locked in place to keep the beast from wandering off to eat more innocent people. It basically became a giant monument of highway horror.
Section 2. Origins from old railway tracks. The real history of the monument.
Now, let's step away from the horror for a second, because the physical history of this thing is just as captivating. The swan definitely wasn't built to be a monster. It was actually commissioned between 1971 and 1975 to welcome visiting deities. Crucially, though, it was constructed in a forested area way before the modern highway was expanded. So when the government eventually widened Pechkasem Road, the new lanes completely swallowed up the temple's frontage. And that is exactly why the giant swan's sharp beak ended up jutting out so dangerously, right over the new highway lanes.
What's really fascinating here is the actual construction of the swan. Former Abbot Frog Crew Paison hired a specialized team of craftsmen from Ong Thong for the job, but here's the kicker. The core frame of the swan is made entirely out of old, repurposed railway steel. And in Thai mystical culture, materials salvaged from train tracks carry incredibly heavy superstitions about trapped spirits from past accidents. When you combine that kind of dark energy with its original ghostly pure white cement coating, yeah, you've basically got the perfect recipe for an urban legend. Because of that protruding beak we talked about, road workers actually tried to demolish the statue during the highway expansion. But they couldn't. The demolition crews reported having these terrifying, super vivid nightmares of the swan coming to life to attack them. Sometimes there was even a giant snake resting on its beak in the dreams. The sheer fear was so intense it effectively halted all removal efforts. They were literally forced to just pave the road right around the imposing bird. Section 3. The Truth from the Abbot. Fact versus fiction. To separate the myth from the reality, let's turn to the current abbot of Wat Hoi Luk, Pra Atikan Decha. He gives us a really fascinating reality check here. Remember those heavy chains meant to stop the man-eater? Well, the abbot explained they were simply an offering from a devotee who'd fulfilled a vow. Actually, scratch the scary stuff. The chains were later removed because the abbot had a dream where the swan supposedly complained they were too tight. Pretty funny, right? And the gold paint? It wasn't to hide blood. It was simply added later as a sign of reverence and to beautifully restore the aging white statue. The abbot also completely debunked that gruesome story about the crushed monk. He clarified that, yes, there was indeed a heavy bell hanging from the swan's beak, but it was removed purely out of an abundance of caution. With the beak hanging directly over passing cars, they took it down just to prevent it from accidentally snapping and dropping onto the highway below. It was pure, simple traffic safety. So the crucial takeaway here is how the abbot frames these supernatural highway sightings. When he's asked about drivers seeing the swan walking across the road at night, he doesn't just dismiss it out of hand. Instead, he views it through a Buddhist lens. He explains that seeing such a phenomenon is an individual matter. It depends entirely on a person's own karma and merit, rather than, the actions of some bloodthirsty monster. Section 4. A Companion and Good Fortune. From Horror to Hope.
Today, the whole vibe around Wat Hoi Luke has dramatically shifted. What was once a site of late-night highway horror has completely transformed into this incredible beacon of hope. Part of this comes from a surprisingly heartwarming addition. The current abbot heard a mysterious voice in his sleep, claiming to be the giant swan, and the voice basically said it was lonely standing by the highway all by itself. So what did they do? They built a smaller, vibrant green female swan right beside it. This finally gave the solitary giant a companion, completely softening its intimidating image. Because of these changes, the giant golden swan has totally shed its man-eating reputation. Now, it's a beloved cultural landmark. It's literally a mandatory photo check-in spot for travelers heading south. But more importantly, it's become a really powerful shrine. Desperate people arrive heavily in debt, pray to the swan, and report leaving with a newfound prosperity. It's heavily sought after for business fortune, and students even flock to it, praying for success in their academic exams. If you want to tap into this good fortune yourself, the temple has actually provided the exact steps to respectfully perform the giant swan worship chant. It's pretty straightforward. You start by chanting Namo 3 times, followed by a specific Pali chant. IJ Rooney, Jibi Saiki, also 3 times. Finally, you state your full name and clearly make your wish for happiness, prosperity, and the removal of suffering. It is just absolutely incredible how a mix of highway construction, old railway steel, and some very active imaginations created a modern myth. And even cooler is how faith and a fresh coat of gold paint turned that myth into a source of blessing. But, it definitely makes you wonder, how are you going to view this towering golden figure the next time you find yourself driving down that long, dark stretch of highway in Prachuap Khiri Khan? Are you going to be looking for a lucky landmark, or will you be checking your rearview mirror for a giant bird?